Hello students, welcome to Science and Tech series with Dr. Vivek Rana. Topic for today's discussion is from Space and Life Sciences section. We'll be decoding species which is in news for all the right reasons. Recently we have seen that Indian born Shubhankar Shukla has become second Indian man to go into space after Rakesh Sharma. So Axiom 4 mission is associated with innumerable experiments which revolve around life sciences. In today's topic, we'll be decoding a species which is center of, you could say, focus of one of the experiments. This species has been in news for almost, you could say, last decade, and lot of scientific experiments revolve around the species which has survived five mass extinctions and is likely to survive six mass extinction as well. So we'll be decoding what makes this particular species which goes by name of tardigrade so resilient, what are its adaptations which helps in survival in all against all odd conditions. So first and foremost, as you can look on your screen, this species is quite unique in nature. It might appear a little intimidating at first sight because you could see it's almost like a large head with a single eye, and it has multiple legs. If you will number, they come out to be around 8 with, you could say, susceptible looking claws. But you know there is no need to be intimidated by this particular species because it is microscopic in nature, and this image is nothing but, you could say, a projected image of when it is observed in microscopically. So these are almost, you could say, microscopic organisms which are not easy to directly see with our unaided eye. The first and foremost, coming to the size, as I have just highlighted, as the tagline goes, these are, you could say, invisible and invincible. Now, invisible, as you could see on your screen, these are hardly 0.5 mm in size, which makes them quite microscopic in nature. The biggest organism of this group continues to be hover around just 2 mm. So you could say they are almost insignificant if we look at our everyday life happenings. But and coming to biological classification, they are classified under a separate phylum, which is a rarity for any microscopic organism to be classified as. So from that taxonomic classification, they become quite important link and continue to intrigue the ecologists and biologists alike. Also, you could see why they are called invincible, because their resilient properties remain unmatched. Rarely you will come across such entities which can survive almost all odd conditions. It's only the lower organisms like archaebacteria, or you could say a connecting link between living and non-living viruses, which come close to such resilience. Now, the common name of this species are also to be mugged up. They are referred as moss piglet as well as water bear. So, though these two names also hold significant, a question can be framed on this nomenclature as well. So, why they are called water bears? Because mainly they are associated with the water droplets on lichen mosses or any water body, river, lakes, ocean. They are almost found in almost all continents as well, right from oceanic to, you could say, Arctic, Antarctic belt. And why they are referred as bear? Because when we look in their movement in microscopic level, they tend to have a gait which resembles that of a typical bear. So that's why the name water bear has been coined. The name moss piglet goes because these are commonly observed in living condition with the lower plants like lichen, mosses. Typically, when there is a water or dew droplet and it is observed in microscope, we tend to find these microscopic structures there. That's why they are called moss. And why piglet? Because from, you could say, some shallow view, when we look at this image, it appears to resemble a pig as well. So basically, that goes by the story of their common names. Now, coming to the main part, that what makes this species interesting or more important than others is their indomitable spirit to resist different mass extinctions. They are able to adapt to different accommodations, and typically their lifespan is not much. They last for few months to maximum few years. But what's important is whenever conditions become inhospitable, they tend to go into an inactive state, and when conditions become favorable, they tend to revive. We will come to that specific term, but before, what exact conditions are there where you can they can be adaptable? There can be extreme temperatures which are almost unbearable for any living being. They can adapt to extremely high as well as low pressures. Air deprivation also does not make much difference to their existence, because that's one of the reason why they are sent to space station missions as well. Even the radiation exposure does not tend to affect their lifespan or damage their, you could say, genetic makeup. Extreme dehydration and starvation without availability of the common food, they typically feed on the microscopic, you could say, algae, phytoplankton type species, but still they are able to adapt to these extreme conditions, and they tend to be more, you could say, adaptable than other life forms, because typically there are a lot of other species as well. We tend to adapt to different, you could say, tough situations. In plants, we have seen the physical and physiological xerophytes as well. In animals also, we see the summer sleep, winter sleep, hibernation, estivation, torpor in operation. But this is something else, because these are almost inhospitable conditions is typically an organism and such a wide diversity likely not to survive. So what makes this theme possible is cryptobiosis. So basically, from this section, the term which you have to mug up is cryptobiosis. This is adaptation which goes behind the success of Moss Piglet, you could say, adaptation. So in a definition, you could say it's also called anabiosis, and it's a metabolic state in extremophilic organisms. Typically, any organism which tends to survive in extreme climatic or physical condition tend to be labeled as extremophile. So typically, these are small microorganisms which tend to adapt in volcanoes, you could say deep oceans where sunlight is not reaching. So these are response to, you could say, inhospitable environmental conditions such as desiccation, extreme freezing like permafrost region, or oxygen deficiency at lower layers in a cryptobiotic state. In this particular process, they suspend all their metabolic processes. Metabolism, in simple terms, means when we take food, it is broken down from complex to simplified, it is absorbed and eventually excreted. So basically, this entire process of nutrition is single way described as metabolism. They tend to stop that metabolic state. Eventually, even their development and in injury repair, all mechanisms which consume energy are, you could say, put on hold. And when the conditions become hospitable again due to, you could say, availability of nutrients or due to the right environmental conditions, sufficient water or resources are available, they return to their metabolic state of life. So basically, that's intriguing, you could say, their makeup, which makes them quite a resilient organism from rest of the world. No, scientists, once they came to know about their resilience and adaptability, they tend to took these experiments into the space, and tardigrades are one of the, you could say, epicenter of research for lot of scientific, you could say, endeavors. The first major mission which made them popular continues to be Photon M3. It was a Russian, you could say, rocket which carried these microscopic organisms for European scientific experiments in space. And to surprise, they were exposed directly to the space atmosphere. And once they were brought back to Earth and given, you could say, hydrated, they tend to revive. So these made them, you could say, a trailblazer in scientific research, because rarely someone who has been exposed is brought back to life once back on Earth. So that's the reason, since then, these organisms have become a constant in International Space Station missions. They have made it to International Space Station as well, and currently also they are making headlines because of International Space Station scientific experiment missions, because we are trying to decode what exactly, how their body or metabolism reacts to extreme conditions, how they adapt, for how long they survive. Even in Israel's Bereshit mission, when that mission collapsed while attempting a difficult maneuver, this species might have survived for few days, and they continue to be a curious the theme for scientists, and how do they do it over and over again. So we can say, hopefully, when the Axiom 4 mission concludes, it has brought already lot of, you could say, positive news for ISRO as well as Indian born Shubhankar Shukla. We all are proud of your, you could say, stupendous achievement, and this adds to another feather in the list. But hopefully, from, you could say, research perspective, the current research involving this unique microscopic organism is further to our enhance our knowledge regarding aging, adaptability, some disorders, how body can react to extreme conditions. So hopefully this species will make news for, once again, all the right reasons once the research concludes and the data is shared with the world. So make sure you are able to understand the role of tardigrades, water bear, moss piglet in scientific experiments, as well as from life science perspective, what makes them such a adaptable species which has survived all odds and is likely to outlive human race as well in future. So with this, we conclude today's validation lecture on current affair. Hopefully, you gained some insights about this intriguing organism as well. So we'll be back soon with another current affair lecture, which will enrich your knowledge for prelims or mains. So keep following us. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.